Well, apparently I'm live. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm looking over at my monitor to make sure that I am live. Looks like I am. Gee whiz. After an incredible amount of effort, after a Herculean struggle to get live, I am indeed live. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to wait for some people to show up live. Of course, anybody who is watching this archived forever on YouTube or my Facebook page doesn't get the exact thrill of the moment that we're experiencing here live on this Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. As I struggle with the technology, might as well reveal myself because we've got some people on board, and I am indeed Malcolm Tent here, bringing you the most recent episode against all odds of Tent Talks Tunes. Kind of a sparse Spartan backdrop here tonight. Kind of a sparse Spartan presentation in general, because as we know, I'm sitting here in my mostly empty cabin in the woods waiting for my house to sell so I can skedaddle out of Connecticut and relocate to North Carolina. If you guys are watching live, you'll see that I'm about 10 minutes late. And in explanation for that, I'm going to go contrary to my usual policy of only talking about things I like and talking about products that I like and that I really enjoy. I'm going to strongly unrecommend a live streaming product called Mevo. It's spelled M-E-V-O. I have the great misfortune and displeasure of having spent $300 on a Mevo camera and Mevo software. I'm here to tell everybody right now that Mevo is garbage. It's junk. It needs to be updated every, 4 or 5 hours. And when you try to update it, it takes forever. And then it still won't work sometimes. So I'm kind of stuck with it because I paid all that money for it, and I'll be double ding-dong-danged if I reinvest any more money in streaming technology. So there you have it. I'm just going to struggle through with this piece of junk called Mevo for the foreseeable future. And who knows, maybe if I get enough money for my house, and I've got something left over when I move in, I'll be able to afford a better streaming platform than this Mevo jive-ass turkey nonsense. Because I don't like keeping you people waiting. I like to be on time. Punctuality is something that I strive for, and I hate being late when I bring you Tent Talks Tunes. Doesn't matter too much for the archived episodes, but for you people who are waiting for me to deliver the goods in good faith in a timely manner, it's a drag for you, and I'm sorry for that. I hate to keep you waiting. On behalf of the third-rate, bottom-shelf streaming program called Mevo, I apologize. Anyway, enough about those idiots. Let's talk about my mailing address, Malcolm Tent, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. In answer to many inquiries, I am still taking mail at the P.O. Box, and I will be for the foreseeable future. In fact, I went down to the post office yesterday and renewed the P.O. Box for another 6 months. So even once I am established in North Carolina, you can still continue to send mail to the P.O. Box, and it will get to me in North Carolina. So, I see my pal Chris Iconicide is tuned in, and certainly, Mr. Iconicide, you must recognize the handwriting on this envelope. Oh, yesy yes. The return address says, all rights perverse. P.O. Box address, and at the bottom it says, don't you fucking write to us. No problem. I would not dream of it. Chris, I'll talk to you, but I will not write to you. I normally don't take requests, but since you requested it, I'm going to give it to you. I will not write to you, but I will show the fun envelope of stuff you sent me. I got to admit, I cheated a little bit and cracked it open just because I didn't want to waste any more time. You know, I'm sitting here waiting for Mevo to work its alleged magic, and I had to do something, so I did a little bit of prepping on the envelopes. Let's see what's inside this envelope from my pal Chris Iconicide from All Rights Perverse. Chris is a long-time New York City punk rock dude. He does a lot of great stuff. I have a few things in this envelope right now. Look at that. First off the button. First off the button, first out the box. 2 buttons, iconicide buttons. Look at that. Yep, I'll sport these. Check it out live on the dreaded Facebook. In spite of Mevo, I will unveil and unwrap one of these buttons and put it proudly on my garment. And anybody who knows me knows that once I stick a button on a shirt, it stays there. It will be washed, dried, and worn until the t-shirt itself wears out or until the hole is pulled so big that it will not stay. So, let's see here. What else we got from Chris Iconicide? We have a handwritten letter featuring on one side a picture of the man himself. And, oh, look at that. A tiny little skull. It's the real things, man. Real artifacts, real objects here that we love so much on Tent Talks Tunes. Including, as promised, a reprint. I'm pretty sure I know what this is. A reprint of a vintage zine. There you go. Someplace Like Earth. Genuine print magazine. Oh, yes. And look at that. Cover price of 50 cents. 1988. Yeah, man. Love it. Love the print items. Love the zines. What else we got in here? This is fun. This is better than Christmas, Halloween, and or the Easter basket. We got fancy die-cut stickers. Look at these things. I think it's a magnet. Oh, my stars and garters. A magnet. Stickers galore. Iconicide stuff. Love it. Love it. Love it. John Murray says, I didn't write him when he was in prison. John Murray, we had a conversation going on about cassette tapes, I remember. And you wanted me to order you cassette tapes. And I seem to recall writing back to you saying that I could do it. And I don't know what happened. Maybe the letter got intercepted or something, but hey, I tried. We were going to try to provide some kind of cassette tape action there, and it, what can I say? It didn't happen. And a flyer in the good old tradition of Tompkins Square punk rock no goodness for an upcoming event on November. What's the date on this? November 9th, 2024. Celebrating the post-election blues. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris Iconicide. Thank you so very much. Love getting real things. Here's something that came in the mail. The latest issue of Outsider magazine. Yes. The Hudson Valley's premier punk rock publication. My pal Holly puts this out and has been putting it out for years and years and years. She won't quit. I admire that perseverance and that stick-to-itness. I am always happy to provide articles for Outsider magazine. And there's my latest. It's sort of a DIY independent touring travelogue. Talking about some of the amazing sights that I've seen while trundling around this country behind the wheel of whatever cheap-ass beat-up used vehicle I am piloting at a given moment. So yeah, if you want to read real punk rock publication, Outsider magazine, still in the soup. I'm going to try to get a stack of these for the Danbury Record and CD Expo. Notice how one topic flows seamlessly to the other. The Danbury Record and CD Expo, November 23rd. It's happening. VFW Hall number 149 in Danbury. I'm going to see if I can get publisher Holly to send me a stack of magazines so that we can give them away to you, because it's a free magazine. And what's better than free? Hey, I ask ya. John Murray, no apologies necessary. We go back a long way, man. We go back a long way. And memories, when you get to be our age, even though I think you're a couple of years younger than I am, young man, memories, when it gets into this age bracket, whew, even if they were much, they ain't much now. Oh my God. I will drink a swig of Danbury tap water to that. the pause that either cures or kills. What else do we got here? Oh, man, we got all kinds of good stuff here. By the way, who's tuned besides John Murray? We got Scott LaRock. We got the aforementioned Chris Iconicide, Mike Lesser from Vancouver, BC, Alan from Parts Unknown, Way to Known, and my new friend, Jetty Jet Fields from the Queen City of Charlotte, North Carolina. Or is it Raleigh? I forget. Either way, I'm moving down there, Jetty Jet. I'm going to be close to you. So watch out. This is a piece of equipment I ordered. Nobody's interested in seeing that. So I ain't going to show it to ya. I'm going to go through and try to tick off a few events from my jaundiced, shrunken down, shriveled up memory. We were talking about memory a second ago. And I just realized I don't need to rely on memory because I've got a thing called a calendar. A real-life, honest-to-jaw paper calendar, which reminds me to remind you about exciting events coming up in the world of me, Malcolm Tent, as they intersect with you, my vivacious, vibratory viewers. What's happening? Well, let's see. You're not interested in the tire rotation that I had yesterday. You're probably not too interested in the fact that I'm departing tomorrow to drive down to North Carolina. But you might be interested to know that 1 week from today, 1 week today, 7 days from now, 7, count them, 7 days from now, the great, the almighty, the largely powerful, the ferocious, felicitous, frightening, yet somehow fuzzy, anti-scene. We are playing in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's right, day 1 of a 4-night run. The anti-scene Texas-Louisiana Halloween hayride kicks off 1 week from tonight. Shreveport, Louisiana on October 30th. Halloween night in Austin, Texas. November 1st in San Antonio, Texas. And then the 2nd in Lafayette, Louisiana. If you go down to Louisiana and say, hey man, can I have directions to Lafayette? They know you're not from around there. If you go down there and say, hey man, which direction is Lafayette? You can fool them into thinking you're local. So Lafayette on Saturday, November 2nd. After that, oh boy, don't think I'm done yet. Anti-Scene is going to pull into the garage and retool for a little while. But on Monday, the 4th of November, Malcolm Tent, and getting back on the road to play a solo gig in Athens, Georgia, with my good pal Tim Holhouse, who is on tour from the UK. Me and Tim have shared the stage more than anybody else together. I more with him, and I suspect him more with me than anybody else. We have put thousands of miles, hundreds and hundreds of kilometers on our respective odometers, both here and overseas. Always a pleasure to share the stage with Tim. So November 4th, Athens, Georgia. November 5th, Wilmington, North Carolina. And November 6th, me and Tim at Tommy's Pub in Charlotte, North Carolina. If I still had the bulletin board, I would be pointing out the flyers to you, but the bulletin board is in storage right now on its way to North Carolina. So you just have to be modern, guys and gals, and go onto our various respective Facebook pages, such as mine, to find information and event pages about my solo gigs in Charlotte, Wilmington, and Athens, and Anti-Scene's gigs in Lafayette, San Antonio, Austin, and Shreveport. You guys need, want, and deserve substantive entertainment. I am here to give it to you either on Tent Talks Tunes, rocking out my solo acoustic thing, or strumming the thunder lumber with the almighty Anti-Scene. Now, I'm just going to say, the set list we've got cooked up for the Anti-Scene Texas Louisiana Halloween Hayride is a corker. It is a humdinger. It is the kind of thing that you cannot aim a pea shooter at and expect results. Ain't gonna happen. You need bigger guns than that to shoot down this set list. Oh, yeah. A pretty good clutch of songs we've never played live on stage before. And a fair number of songs we have not played in a very long time. I'm not going to reveal any surprises, but I will say 2 words. Actually, I'll say 4 words. 4 words if you want to know about some of these rare and perhaps even hitherto unheard tracks from Anti-Scene live on stage. 4 words. Great, Disasters, Rocky, Erickson. That's all I got to say. That's all the people need to know. After that, you just got to come on down to the show yourselves, and listen. I should also not forget that Anti-Scene is rocking the Milestone in Charlotte, North Carolina on December 7th. How's that for a smorgasbord of options? Oh, yeah. All right. That was a pretty good slate of self-advertising. What do you say we get out the old fork and stick it into the topic at hand, which is some tunes. Oh, yes, tunes. Looks good whether you're myopic or not. Oh, yeah. So, I mentioned before, I am living in a very empty house, but it does not stop me from getting new stuff. And whenever I get new stuff, I like to share it with you, the people, who tune into Tent Talks Tunes with such alarming regularity. Yep, you know the drill. Whenever I'm on the road, whenever I'm on tour, whenever I'm driving to North Carolina to take care of Anti-Scene business, I hit every record store between here and there. And I take a lot of different routes going down there and coming back. Excuse me, so as to hit as many record stores in as many areas as possible. I will load my vehicle up with TPOS product, my fabulous record label, TPOS, and I trade stuff at the record stores I go to. I trade them TPOS merchandise, either for leafy green cash and or stuff. Now, I gotta tell you, Mama's little baby loves his money, but I love the stuff. Money is very practical. It's very useful. It's great for paying bills. It's great for staving off financial disaster. It's great to build a sort of a nest egg for retirement if I ever decide to retire, which I don't think I ever will, but just in case. Money definitely has its uses. I don't need to tell you people that. You all know. Everybody's watching their nose. Money's got its uses. Can I have an amen? Can I have a huzzah? Can I have a thumbs up? Can I have a heart? Can I have a fist? Can I have an angry, frowny face? Can I have an ice cream cone? Can I have some kind of an icon? I want to see an emoji blizzard of icons in response to people who know what I'm talking about. There you go. There's the huzzas. There's all kinds of thumbs up. Lots of hearts. Yes. All you have to do is say money, 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 and the hearts come out. Yay. Who says the capitalist society is a bad thing? Look at that. They're rising to the top. I feel like I'm in the middle of a carbonated beverage right now. Does good for this mummified old punk rock heart of mine. Chrissy Walker, a.k.a. Pissy Chrissy, replies with a clown face. She knows me well. Speaking of clown faces, What about that clown face? What do you guys think of that? This is something that I picked up while I was at one of my very favorite shops in Bridgeport, Connecticut, called the Archive. And the Archive is a great store that specializes in rare and arcane movies and video, and they do a lot of reissuing of some incredibly hard to find and bizarre, weird movies. And they didn't do this one themselves, but I found this there. It is a cassette soundtrack for a previously, I don't know if this was ever actually lost or not, but it was definitely really obscure and it remained unseen for a number of years, but a movie starring Tiny Tim called Blood Harvest. And he plays a clown, the magnificent Mervo the Clown. And this is reputed to be quite a weird and wonderful movie. And I saw this on the shelf and I just had to get it, not only because it's packaged in the old style VHS plastic clamshell, but it's a cassette. Look at that. It's a cassette packaged like an old VHS tape. Fell in love with it. I mean, I fell in love with it the second I saw the Marvelous Mervo. But when I saw it was a cassette packaged like a VHS, I knew that my name was on it. And it even comes with a download for the entire movie in HD. So I've been wanting to see this movie for a long time. I've been wanting to hear the soundtrack for a long time. And now thanks to my pals at the Archive in Bridgeport, who not only purchased a big pile of TPOS product, they hooked me up with some fun stuff to bring home. And haha, seeing Tiny Tim in full clown makeup on the big screen, or at least a somewhat medium screen, I'm looking forward to it. Hey, Gary Forney is tuned in. Everybody say hello to Gary Forney, why don't you? Speaking of TPOS and TPOS recording artists, we have from LaPorte, Iowa, Mr. Gary Forney himself, saying that he has seen the Tiny Tim movie. Well, Gary, please don't be the spoiler. Please enjoy your position of superiority as far as it goes with Blood Harvest and the fact that you have seen it and I have not. I need the element of surprise. Yes. And by the way, if you people watching don't know Gary Forney or don't know Gary's music, I'm just going to put it in a nutshell. I wouldn't release the guy's stuff if I didn't think it was great. So, Gary Forney, Pumpkin, Iowa Mountain Tour, check it out. Speaking of movies that I got down at the Archive, I'm not even sure what this one's all about, but I saw it and I just knew I had to have it. It's a wrestling movie, apparently from 1980, called Below the Belt. I guess it's a drama about female wrestlers. And I just figured that any movie from 1980 about wrestling has gotta be good. It's gotta be worth watching, right? This is before wrestling became sports entertainment and when kayfabe was a real thing. So to make a movie about wrestling was definitely walking a very fine line. And I am dying to see it. The only wrestler I can definitely recognize who is in it is the great Mildred Burke, one of the old-time lady professional wrestlers going all the way back to the 50s. She's in it. That's legit enough for me. And apparently Billy Preston either did the soundtrack or wrote the score or something. So Billy Preston, Mildred Burke, 1980s professional wrestling movie, pre-sports entertainment. I'm digging it. And it's actually got an audio commentary by Dave Meltzer, the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I would watch it just for that. I used to subscribe to the Wrestling Observer because it's the authentic, behind-the-scenes accounting and documentation and history of professional wrestling. No kayfabe there. It's the real deal. So all I gotta do now is get myself a DVD player, because I don't have a DVD player. I'm still just barely adjusting to the fact that I have a DVD player. So Blu-ray is the next frontier. It's got to happen sometime, right? There's the incentive. 1980 on Blu-ray. What else have we got? We got so many cool, fun things, man. I think I might have talked about a shop that I am very fond of in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, called Admiral Analog's Audio Assortment. Not only do I like that place as a store, not only do I like the dude who runs it, but I like the fact that he recognizes CDs for what CDs are supposed to be. CDs are supposed to be cheap. They're supposed to be affordable. They're supposed to be portable format that you can take anywhere at a low cost. That's what CDs are supposed to be. That's what they were always meant to be, I think. And the reason why I like CDs now, after decades of hating them, is because they have finally morphed to being what they are. Affordable, portable, cheap, good way to listen to music that's a physical medium. So there I was at Admiral Analogs, and I found this double CD. Check out the price tag on that, $5. Double CD of the John Entwistle Band called Left for Live. Now, you guys might have heard me talk about John Entwistle a few weeks back on Tent Talks Tunes. I had a little bit of a contest in which I had you, the viewer, try to guess what was the most gratuitously, ridiculously, stupidly loud act I've ever seen in my life. We're talking about loud beyond reason, loud beyond purpose, loud beyond need, just loud to the point where it was really completely dumb and uncalled for. And I threw out a few choices. We had, Dinosaur Jr., Motorhead, Swans, Godspeed You Black Emperor, God on a Bad Day, some of the usual suspects. But the winner was indeed John Entwistle. John Entwistle, bass player for The Who, was so insanely loud that I hardly even enjoyed the show. It was so loud. And I love noise. I play an anti-scene, for gosh sakes. We're like Kiss in 1982. Loud. Want to hear it loud. Right between the eyes. Boom. Don't want no compromise. We want it loud. But the volume that John Entwistle played at for his, at the time, very middle-of-the-road adult contemporary rock, it just defied all logic. But he's still a brilliant songwriter, needless to say, an incredible bass player, and the tunes that they played, such as I could make them out through the just sheer din of the volume, were really good. So what the heck, for $5, I would throw down for a double CD of live performances from that era. And sure enough, man, this thing is chock full of great tunes. It relies very heavily on his solo stuff, but it's of course got a lot of Who songs in there. But man, solo songs like Boogeyman, Horror Rock, Sometimes, You, Darker Side of the Night. I mean, great stuff. Love is a Heart Attack. You want to talk about a prescient songwriter. The song Love is a Heart Attack is John Entwistle telling the story about how his doctor said, lay off the women, lay off the drugs, lay off all the bad stuff, or you're going to die. And as we know, John Entwistle did not lay off the drugs. He did not lay off the paid women. And that's how he died, in a Las Vegas hotel room with a big pile of blow and a hooker. Got to admire the guy. he knew exactly how he was going to croak, and he wrote a song about it. So I've been playing this almost nonstop. Almost nonstop. Keeping in mind that the production on this record is god-awful. You can tell that it was mixed and produced by a guy whose hearing was completely blown out. It's like all high-end. It's like nothing but high-end. And he was also playing with some kind of weird effect on his bass. I don't know if it was a flanger or some kind of phase, but he like turns that effect on and leaves it on for the whole show, except for one song, which was Whiskey Man. And so after like 6 or 7 songs of that, you start to get this ear fatigue, and it's just really hard to play from start to finish. And I know that I'm making it sound like a lousy album, but it's a really good album, just because the songwriting is so good. So what that made me do was make a playlist of my own. I looked up every single song that John Entwistle wrote for The Who and was performed by The Who. Came up with, I think, 26 of them and made a 26-song playlist of The Who playing John Entwistle's songs. And let me tell you, my friends, and even my foes, that playlist kicks ass. There is not one bad song on that entire playlist, even from some of the weaker Who albums, and I'm not going to sit here and determine which ones are better, which ones are worse. That's up to the individual listener. But in my opinion, some of the weaker Who albums, the John Entwistle songs on those albums are all great. They're great. He never wrote a bad song for The Who. And it's kind of cool, really, when you think about it. A guy in his position, who's in a world-class, world-famous band like The Who, but without the pressure of the band's leader, Pete Townsend. Pete Townsend was under the gun every year to write and deliver a blockbuster album. All John Entwistle had to do was write a couple of good songs for it, and his job was done. And so you really can't fail when you're in a position like that. So Entwistle always got between 1, and I think the most he had on one album was 3. Between 1 and 3 songs per Who album. And I believe the only Who album that doesn't have any kind of a John Entwistle song credit at all is Quadrophenia. That one's all Townsend, I think. And the first album's got the great song The Ox, which he gets a co-writing credit on. But other than that, he's got songs on every single album. And they're all good. They're all good. So I've taken this album, as much as I like it in principle, out of my car and replaced it with my 2 CD 26 song The Who Plays John Entwistle playlist. And it's great. And that was all triggered by the purchase of one $5 CD at a real record store in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Admiral Analog, if you're out there, I salute you. We've got some comments coming in. Let's see what people are saying. James Pogo says he loved The Who until they grew beards. Then they went downhill. I don't know if I would argue that point. Mike Lesser says that he saw Dinosaur Jr. and My Bloody Valentine was the opening band. Oh my God, Mike. How do you even have hearing left after that unless you were wearing earplugs? I hope you were wearing earplugs. Fun fact about Malcolm Tent. My first concert that I attended ever was in 1980. And that was the only concert I have ever attended in my entire life without hearing protection. I have never played a show without hearing protection, unless it was a solo acoustic gig, of course. And I've never attended a show without hearing protection since 1980. And that's why I can still hear what you're saying when you talk to me. Unless we're in a crowded room with a lot of noise, then I can hear what you're saying, but I don't understand it in the slightest bit. Pretty weird. It's like just this din of noise with a bunch of voices. And I've talked to other people who've got the same problem too. So it's weird. It's not the ability to hear, but the ability to comprehend when it's one voice amongst a bunch of others. But I digress. One of the jobs and joys of Tent Talks Tunes is to digress. I also started tracking down all of John Entwistle's solo albums, and I got the last one that I need, which was Whistle Rhymes. Used to see this record in the cutout bins all over the place in the late 70s and early 80s when I was a kid. This is an actual, genuine, uncut copy. Just about the only uncut copy of this album I've seen. And when I get established in North Carolina and I have a record player, I can't wait to play it. Can't wait to play this one either. I don't know where I picked this one up. But, if you guys can see this, hopefully you can see the label and you can see the song title. Yes, that is Stinky Breath, done by none other than Dr. Bad Breath. Who in their right mind would pass up the chance to own a record called Stinky Breath by a guy named Dr. Bad Breath? The B-side is called Sometimes. Seems pretty innocuous. There's a song on that John Entwistle record called Sometimes. But I don't think Dr. Bad Breath wrote that one. Very curious. I'll let you guys know how it goes. Wish me luck. Here's a record that I know I don't need luck with. I was so frustrated and irritated with Mevo when I was trying to go on air that my camera angle is kind of stinky. Kind of like Dr. Bad Breath's Stinky Breath. The angle's not great, so you can't see my Vinyl Conflict t-shirt. Vinyl Conflict is one of my favorite record stores. It's in Richmond, Virginia. Bobby is a good dude, the guy who runs it. And we have done a lot of business over the years, trading TPOS product for his product. When I was down there flipping through his boxes of 45s, I saw this one. It caught my attention immediately. This is a group, actually a guy named Billy the Kid and the Prisoners of Love, doing a song called Ghetto Car. Now, right away, anybody named Billy Kid and the Prisoners of Love is intriguing, and a song called Ghetto Car is doubly intriguing. My main man Bobby had a PlayStation, and I don't mean the video game, I mean a record player with a set of headphones, and I gave this song Ghetto Car a spin. Oh man, this is a banger, this is a rocker, this is some hard driving electric funk. Ghetto Car by Billy Kid. If all goes well, and I'm able to land myself a radio show when I am back in North Carolina, you can bet your sweet bippy that this one's going to be in rotation on my radio show. Will it happen? I don't know. But there is actually a college radio station in Gastonia, North Carolina, which is just down the road from where I intend to live. And I've heard a lot of good music coming off of that radio station. I forget the call letters, but it's 91.7 on your FM dial in Gastonia. I've heard real live DJs playing music and talking. Good enough for me. If they want a community volunteer like myself, I'm going to sign up for it. So I can play you great stuff. It's fun to talk about John Entwistle's Whistle Rhymes. It's fun to talk about Stinky Breath by Dr. Bad Breath. But it's even more fun to play them so you guys can hear them. It's fun to play guys like John Otway, one of those authentic British eccentrics who I love so much. You know, think about Max Wall, Ivor Cutler, hell, even Noel Coward for that matter. So many of them. Ted Milton from Blurt. Something about that English style of eccentricity that I love so much. And John Entwistle's, John Otway is one of them. He's not a put-on. He's not an act. He's completely for real. He's a genuine weirdo. He's cranked out tons of records. Every one of them I've heard, I've liked. This is probably the closest thing to a hit that he ever had. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, whatever. And this is a 10-inch EP on the UK Stiff label. 10-inch records are cool. Even if Aerosmith did do a song with a title about a big 10-inch record. In spite of Aerosmith, the 10-inch record is a great format. James Pogo says that he saw John Otway. Man, I'm envious of you, James Pogo. I would love to see John Otway. I first heard of him, of course, through the great Erg, A Music War movie in 1981. His version of Cheryl's Going Home on the big screen. This madman running across the stage with no apparent rhyme or reason. Great stuff. Talk about 10-inch records. Here's a beautiful vintage LP from the 1950s. Ranch House Favorites by Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. What do I love so much about Bob Wills? The fact that he's got a guy in the band who apparently does nothing but go, ah, yeah, man, play that hot. I think that's all he does. That's all he does. He's in every single song I've ever heard by Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. I love it. I think it is so cool. I was introduced to Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys by my old friend Brian Douglas Clemens, who is no longer with us. Brian Douglas Clemens was a genuine, honest-to-gosh train hopper. He was a poet. He had all kinds of bad habits. But he was one of those guys who lived life 200% every minute of every day. And he turned me on to Bob Wills and Jimmy Rogers, the singing brakeman. Country musicians and artists who I love to this day. So BDC, wherever you are, thank you. And thank Bobby at Vinyl Conflict for this authentic 1950s 10-inch LP. Before albums were this big, they were this big. You can see the difference. Singles were also this big. And I found this one at the recent record swap meet in Plainville, Connecticut. Check this out. Normally, if you see Dot on the label, you can be pretty well assured it's going to be some real cornball, hokey 1950s Caucasian shtick. But they did do some pretty cool songs. They did The Phantom doing Love Me, which is one of the most unhinged rock and roll records ever made. And this one was actually a pretty big hit, and it kind of fits in the adult grown-up category. But The Green Door by Jim Lowe. This is a great song, man. The Cramps covered this on their second album. That's how I first heard of it. And the original's not nearly as unhinged as the Cramps version, but it's still really cool. And I've got 45 of this, and of course the 45 is great. But hearing it on 78, man, that's a whole other listening experience. Any aficionados of 78s out there will know what I'm talking about. 70s just sound like they are beamed directly from a whole other time, a whole other place. An entirely different universe, practically. They really sound like signals from outer space, almost. They are wonderful. I love 78s. And getting to hear The Green Door on 78, it's going to be a treat. Walt Wheat, my compadre in the almighty anti-scene, the guitar player, leathersmith, gunsmith, General Smith, from Hattiesburg, Mississippi says that Bob Wills Collar is the Bobby Byrd of Western swing. Great analogy, man. Totally. If you people know about James Brown, you've got to know about Bobby Byrd. I showed and told this one. What is it? Well, it's the inner sleeve for the Rolling Stones' Satanic Majesty's Request, with an OG London piece of vinyl in the middle. And we've talked about this before. I have gone on record numerous times, and I'll say it right now, that their Satanic Majesty's Request by the Rolling Stones is one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums. It's my second favorite Stones album, behind Some Girls. Satanic Majesties is a great album. It is not fake psychedelia. It is not a Sgt. Pepper ripoff. It is an album heavily influenced by Moroccan and Middle Eastern music, with, I'm sure, some psychedelia thrown in there, but the primary vibe is Moroccan. It's an awesome record. And why did I pay $1 for just the inner sleeve and just the record? Because in my album inventory, in my record store backstock, I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9 of the original 3D covers, the 3D lenticular covers for the Stones' Satanic Majesty's Request, but without records. And it's very weird because, you know, in this business of buying and selling and trading records, you come across covers without records, you come across records without covers, but I have consistently found Satanic Majesty's covers without records more than any other title that I can think of, with the possible exception of the original cover of Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. The original cover to that one had a different set of photographs on the inside gatefold, which they changed later. I always seem to find covers, the original cover, either missing one record or beat to death or mismatched. I don't know why that is. Later pressings, I always find them intact. Earlier pressings of Blonde on Blonde, so many of them, they're either missing a record or have mismatched records or some defect to the vinyl. Very odd. Maybe somebody out there knows why that is. Mark Deal says that We Love You by the Stones would fit nicely on that record. I agree. I agree completely. I think We Love You is one of the great Stones singles and should have been a massive hit. Don't know why it wasn't. Awesome song. Chris Iconicide says that he performed at the Anarchist Switchboard the same night as Brian Douglas Clemens, the night that Iconicide was born. Chris, did we share the stage at all at one of the Anarchist Switchboard poetry readings? Because I did do one of those with Brian. And I'm going to assume this is the event that Bob Z hosted. Am I correct with that? Let me know if I'm right or not. And if anybody else is watching who might know what we're talking about and wants to chime in, please do. Bob Z of Bad News, who had a print zine and promoted shows and waged a very hard-fought and ably executed war against the New York City Department of Sanitation for their draconian flyer law back in the late 80s. Okay, that is the one and the same. Cool, good to know. Yeah, Bob Z produced a lot of really good stuff, and I wonder where he is now. Where is Bob Z now? Does anybody know? Chris, do you know? I haven't talked to Bob Z in forever and a day. But he was really, really productive and prolific back in the days of the Tompkins Square demonstrations and stuff like that. And you guys, Chris and Bob, like really summed up the zeitgeist that entire time and entire place. That's why I salute you, Chris, for keeping it going to this day in New York City, whatever New York City is now. You're still out there. You're still doing it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I sport your badge. I think that's about it, guys. I am done being a Tent Talks tuner, excuse me, for this evening. It's about 8 o'clock. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank everybody who catches this on the rerun on my YouTube channel. I have got a lot of packing and loading and schlepping to do before I leave to go to North Carolina tomorrow. Excuse me, for the run of anti-scene shows and for my solo shows as well. So I will not be on air next week, and it's pretty doubtful that I will be on air the week after that. But after that, I've got a few more weeks when I will be here. I will have some leisure time, and I will, in theory, have more stuff to show and more stuff to tell and more conversations to have with you guys, my frantic fans, my loyal listeners, and my vibratory viewers. So, thanks again. And until we meet again, this is Malcolm Tent saying so long from the Nutmeg State.